Hi, I'm Kevin Harrington,
I'm Samba Bachili,
Nina Vaca, Chief Executive Officer of Pinnacle Group.
an original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank.
CEO of ADS Group.
The largest Latina-owned workforce solutions in America.
I first identified myself as an entrepreneur when I was 15 years old.
My mother and father immigrated here with a suitcase and a dream. I had a front row seat to entrepreneurship. I am living proof of what is possible in this country.
Today, the marketplace is very tough.
The challenge for African market today is its access to capital.
The number one reason why we can't scale as entrepreneurs is access to capital.
What makes Glow so different and so powerful is the access to experts, gurus, mentors, coaches, financiers, venture people, money.
When I started my business, I immediately went to engage with different communities, different platforms. Glow makes that experience digital. A digital platform makes it so much faster and so much easier for you to meet like-minded people.
The financial platform that Glow have that make Glow unique.
Glow is about commerce, Glow is about community, and Glow is about having access to capital.
Glow is an asset to every entrepreneur in this country and globally.
It's about helping you take your business, your idea to the next step.
Hi there, and welcome to Business Acceleration 2.0. It's the show where leaders go to grow, and we're thrilled that you're here with us today. We've got someone very exciting in the studio today. You're going to learn a lot about social media, specifically around LinkedIn. But before we go there, just a little bit of housekeeping. We want to remind you that every Thursday we're doing one of these programs where we bring in thought leaders, celebrity CEOs. We bring them in and they help share their stories so that you as an entrepreneur can continue to build and grow your business. I'm Michelle Lemons-Pacenti. I'm the CEO and founder of the Global Leaders Organization, or GLOW as we like to call it. GLOW is a membership organization that was created for the CEO, entrepreneur, founder of a business. And we're here to help you grow your business. And we do it based on 4 different pillars. The first pillar is, our first pillar is the pillar of community. Because as an entrepreneur, it's really lonely at the top. So you need to find your own peer-to-peer network that you can communicate with, learn from, grow with, and GLOW helps provide that for you at a local level with chapters or on the national and international basis. We also have a component for commerce. So we've got a marketplace. So if you're looking to grow your business by doing more business with other decision makers, join GLOW for the marketplace. Marketplace allows you to promote your company's products and services as many times as you want in Marketplace. You can put video, audio in there. It's a great place to go and look for opportunities and deals as well as an entrepreneur. If you're looking for consulting or new software, it's a great place to go and look for special deals supplied by other entrepreneurs in your network by GLOW. We also have our capital component because as an entrepreneur, we're always in the need of capital, aren't we? So if you're looking to build your company and you're needing additional capital, we can help you access that capital, whether it be debt or equity that you're looking for. And then the final component is content, which is what you're here today to hear, content. So join us now with our guest, Richard Bliss. So Richard is an expert with regards to LinkedIn. In fact, he's one of LinkedIn's voices. He's a LinkedIn trainer, and he's also has his own consulting, Bliss Point Consulting. So without further ado, I want to welcome Richard Bliss. Richard, thank you for being here with us today, and welcome.
Michelle, a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious. You know, you and I talked earlier. Are you in your tent?
I am. Oftentimes people comment that it looks like I'm in an office building or something, but yes, I am in a tent, 10 by 10, those farmer market pop-up tents in my backyard. I've been here for 2 years now, and it's been a nice experience. I got flooring, air conditioner. I get to interact with the wildlife in my backyard. It's been quite amazing. So yes, 2 years in my tent. My wife's going to let me back in, she said, next week when she gives me the house key. So I can't wait.
Well, I love it. And I love how COVID has created all these different opportunities for people to experience something completely new, and make it work and actually make it work to their advantage. So kudos to you. Way to go.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so you're the expert on LinkedIn. And before we talk about what we want to accomplish with promoting on LinkedIn,
Yep.
can you share with us what are some of LinkedIn's priorities?
Sure. And so when we say that I'm an expert on LinkedIn, there's a lot of LinkedIn experts out there. I'm just going to tell you where I'm coming from. My company sponsors the largest LinkedIn algorithm research report every year. It's conducted by a gentleman by the name of Richard Vanderblom. And with that research and data, we have been able to build a business around helping companies and individuals find ways to make the LinkedIn platform work for them, because it doesn't work like any other social media platform. And so that's one of the key things, is that realizing that LinkedIn has a different goal, a different mission. The number one thing that LinkedIn's trying to accomplish on their platform is to start a conversation of value, to start a conversation. Because if you think about it, the way that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they make their money off of advertising. And we all know that. The longer they can keep us there, our eyeballs are generating dollars for them. But this might shock a lot of people. 80% of the revenue for LinkedIn comes from paying customers, people who are paying to be on the platform. That includes premium members, that includes Sales Navigator people, that includes LinkedIn Recruiter. Many of my clients who are big tech companies here in Silicon Valley, they spend more than $1 million a year for LinkedIn, not for advertising, but for access for the tools that LinkedIn provides. And so that means LinkedIn's experience goal is completely different. They are not there to entertain, to distract, to hold you underwater like a struggling puppy until you just give up. No, LinkedIn is there to drive business conversations. And that's the number one thing they're looking for in their top priority.
So driving business conversations, that falls right in line for our entrepreneurs that are listening.
It does.
What are some formulas that entrepreneurs should be doing on LinkedIn?
Okay, so there's a combo here of things that they shouldn't be doing and things that they should be doing. So one thing that they should be doing is thinking about that anytime they put out a piece of content on LinkedIn, asking themselves the question, will this content start a conversation? And the real question is, will it start a conversation in the next hour or two? And that's one thing they need to think about. Because I got to tell you, Michelle, I see so many business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs who are using LinkedIn as a dumping ground for their marketing content. They just pump and dump, spray and pray, post and ghost, whatever phraseology we want to use, but they're using it this free conduit for their marketing. Hey, if I just push out as much content as possible, LinkedIn's going to show it to as many people as possible. That is not the case. And so that's one of the key things to think about, is that we need to slow it down. We need to think about conversations, and we need to make sure that we're starting that conversation. So if I put out a standard piece of content that contains a video or a stock image, that doesn't start a conversation at all. But if I write out some interesting thoughts about something I have on a topic that is interesting to me and to my customers, that will start people to pause, read, and start commenting and engaging with my content, thereby teaching LinkedIn that, hey, this content is extremely interesting to this audience. Let's show it to even more people. And that's the key thing for business owners to understand.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you about dwell time.
Yep.
What is dwell time?
So there are certain criteria LinkedIn's using to measure the value of your post and whether it should be shared with a bigger audience. So let me just give you some background on this. When all of us post something to LinkedIn, it does not get sent to all of our connections. So if you have 1,000 connections, we assume incorrectly that content, when we put it out there on LinkedIn, is going to 1,000 people. It is not. It is going to 100 people, or about 10% of our audience. So if we have 3,000 connections, 300 people. If we have 500 connections, 50 people. Now, what's going to happen is that once it shows it to that group, it's going to test it for the next hour or two. And that test involves a certain scoring system. So every time somebody likes our post in the next hour or two, we're going to get 2 points of value. Every time somebody shares that post, we'll get 4 points of value. Every time somebody comments on that post, we're going to get between 8 to 14 points of value. So that's huge. That's a huge difference. But the most important thing is, how long did people spend on our post, reading the content, paying attention to what we had to say, and then possibly reading the comments. So dwell time is a measurement, two measurements. Did you slow down in your scrolling to possibly look at the opening of your post, right? So that's being measured. And then when they expanded it and read, that see more button, and they read more, how much time did they spend reading or looking at that post? That LinkedIn's engineers have determined is a huge indicator of the value of the content. They don't necessarily know what you're saying, but they do know that it caused people to stop and pay attention.
Okay, so is there an optimal word count when you're posting?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because most people throw up an image and then just put one or two lines. They throw up a video, one or two lines. Yes, generally speaking, 100 to 150 words is an excellent amount of content. And that's just long enough to get your point across, but also long enough to keep the audience engaged. So we talk about 100 to 150 words of content, which sounds like a lot. But once you sit down and write out what you want to say, it's not that much content, but it's more than 2 or 3 lines.
Right.
We're talking, 2 or 3 paragraphs is what we're looking for.
Okay, let's talk time. Is there a specific time that's better to post?
This is probably one of the number one questions I get asked, and it has a lot to do with the other social media platforms. And so the question I say is, here's the question you should be asking. What time that I post will probably generate the most comments? Not the most views, but the most comments, because on LinkedIn, it's comments that drive views, not views that drive comments. And so when it comes to timing, you have to think about your audience's ability to participate in the conversation. And that's what will create your content, make your content expand and go beyond that test group. So pre-COVID, it was really easy. Wednesdays, 1 p.m. local time. Why? Because everybody came back from lunch, they're sitting in their cubicle and they're scrolling through social media as they have a food coma. Nowadays, it tends to be Tuesdays, Thursdays, even Saturdays, between 7 to 9 a.m. local time. Why? Because people's commute doesn't involve being in a car. It involves sitting in bed with their mobile device, with their thumbs scrolling along as they look at all their LinkedIn feed. So timing isn't as important as, will I generate comments? And comments can be generated if people have the time to do that. And that's another big challenge for people to think differently about LinkedIn.
Okay, so when you say local time, is it just, it doesn't mean, that's Pacific or Eastern or Central. It means local to wherever you're located.
Local to wherever your audience is located. So if I happen to be talking about, I have a lot of clients in Asia. So if I was making a post, I would try to time it about 9 a.m. Singapore time.
Got it.
Or in the UK. That's what I mean by local. Local to where you think your audience will be most likely to have the time to comment. And so most people are like, oh, well, it has to do with me. No, it has to do with your audience. I'm on the Pacific, so I'm Pacific time, but our entire company is run on Eastern time. Why? Because a lot of our customers are in the UK and they keep track of Eastern time. Sometimes they don't keep track of Pacific time. So our whole company is established on Eastern time. So we do a lot of our things based on Eastern time because that's where a lot of our customers are located.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so it's where your customers are, not necessarily where you're located.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about comments. So you're talking about you want people to post. What's the ideal number of posts that you want?
Actually, what's the ideal number of comments, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's something to think about. You will see people out there artificially inflating their posts by getting a bunch of people just to say, great job, well done, way to go, I agree, happy birthday. LinkedIn doesn't really consider these comments. Those are what we call Facebook comments, or just throwaways. Mm-hmm. What you're looking for is an optimum number of comments that involve participation in a conversation. Richard, you make a really good point. As you talked about this, I saw this, this, and this, and this is why I thought that was important. Here's my perspective on that. What do you think? Oh, that's a fantastic comment. I'm going to respond to that comment. The number of comments, though, to get the LinkedIn algorithm to pop is 10. 10 comments in the first 60 minutes will guarantee, I promise it, it will happen no matter how many connections you have. If you can generate 10 comments in the first hour, the LinkedIn algorithm will show your post to a minimum of 1,000 people in the first 24 hours. Now, there's a lot of people on your show who are listening right now who maybe have been happy they're getting 100 to 200 views on their posts and they think they're doing well. Michelle, I'm telling you that if they just simply do what I just said, that next time they make a post, even if they ask colleagues and work people, hey, could you add to my conversation? I'm going to post this at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Here's what I'm going to say. Would you be willing to chime in? If they get 10 comments, and their responses actually count. Somebody comments, you respond back. They comment, you respond back. They'll get 1,000 views in 24 hours. I did this yesterday. I do a lot of training, and yesterday we had a training call. And so at the beginning of the training, Michelle, I had a member volunteer to throw up a post on their LinkedIn, and we shared the post with the audience. And then we asked everybody to go and please comment on that post. My trainings last 90-minute sessions. At the end of the 90 minutes, we came back. His name was Chris. We came back to Chris. Chris, how's that post doing? It's been 90 minutes. 750 people had viewed his post. He said that was 749 people more than normally see his post. He was stunned. The audience was stunned. And it was text only, no links, no images, no video, just some text talking about some random stuff from his company. And nearly 1,000 people saw it in 90 minutes. And I told him by this time the next day, today, it will have crossed the 1,500 to 2,000 mark. Comments, 10 comments minimum. The more you can get in that first hour, maybe 2 hours, that's what's going to indicate to the algorithm how many people should ultimately see your post.
Okay. So that makes me think of two questions. One, should you include audio, video and visual images? Does that help you?
So here's the shocking answer. No. Here's why. Now let's be careful here because there's two different types of answers here. If I see your video and you put it up there, what is my tendency to do? My tendency is to click the like button and move on. That's my tendency. It is not to participate in a conversation about your video. Almost never do people actually engage with the video in a conversation. It's for watching. Well, LinkedIn doesn't find that particularly valuable. And they measure that by how does your audience interact with your content. Your dwell time might be high, but most of the time it's not. Most people aren't watching that video. They're clicking the like button because they learned that from Instagram, TikTok, and they're moving on. And LinkedIn says, well, we'll give you a couple of points of value, but we're not going to show that to a wider audience because you didn't start a conversation. This is shocking to so many people because they spend so much time building video content for LinkedIn. And then they wonder why they're not getting any traction. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that video's bad because it builds huge brand and awareness. But if you want to reach a wider audience, don't use video. Number two, images. There's two types of images. There are stock photos of 4 individuals of multiple backgrounds, all sitting around a computer, pretending that they're smiling and working and pointing at the screen.
I think we have that one.
Yeah. The question is, will that image start a conversation? No. But I saw a woman today who commented on one of my posts, and I went and looked at her content, and she had her corner office. You know what her corner office was? It was a tiny desk in the corner of her bedroom with posters and everything. There was not even a window. That was her corner office. Well, that's a fantastic picture because will that picture start a conversation? And she doesn't even have to say anything. And that picture would start a conversation. And that's the big difference for your audience to realize is that if you're going to use a photo, an image, that image has to start the conversation or contribute directly to the conversation. Otherwise, your audience will click the like button and move on. And that means that LinkedIn will not promote the post. This is why stock images and videos are the worst performing content on LinkedIn. And so if you are going to use a picture, try to put some human element in it, a real human, not a model. Mm-hmm. And that image then should drive part of the conversation of why people are commenting and participating in what they're saying. And this is very hard for marketing teams to wrap their heads around because they spend so much time on that beautiful graphics. Infographics, terrible idea on LinkedIn. Terrible. Because infographics don't start conversations. I look at it, I read it, I click like, I move on.
Right. Okay, so let me just recap real quick because this is fascinating, right? So we're learning a lot here. So In order to really get the broadest reach possible on LinkedIn, you want to create a post that's 100 to 150 words, that's very engaging, that's thought-provoking, that people are going to want to respond to. And
Yep.
you're going to reach out ahead of time and get at least 10 people ahead of time to know when you're going to post and you're going to respond and ask them to respond. You're going to do that at a time when your clientele, your audience, is most likely to have available time to respond when they're not doing anything, right?
That's correct. All
How
of the
long?
above.
How long should the comments be that your associates are?
Well, here's a great question. This is a great question. Here's why. Commenting is the hidden superpower of LinkedIn. If I comment on your Facebook post, you're going to see it. If I comment on your tweet, you're going to see it. If I comment on your TikTok, you're going to see it. Maybe some other people might see it, but it's pretty much just to you. But on LinkedIn, that's completely different. I'm talking to your listeners now. Have them open up their LinkedIn right now and go through their feed. And what they will see is a tremendous amount of content from people they don't know. Why? Because one of their first degree connections left a comment. LinkedIn will take your comment, lift it out, take the content that it belongs to, and put it in front of your network. Your network now has a chance to see your comment. I agree, Michelle. That's awesome. Well, wait a minute. That comment doesn't say anything. It doesn't tell me the context. It doesn't tell me what's awesome. It doesn't tell me why you think it's awesome. And it doesn't explain what that person's viewpoint on the awesomeness is. We, as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, need to understand that every comment we leave on LinkedIn is being pushed to our network and building our brand. Unlike Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, where we're just kind of throwing those comments out to let the person know that we saw it. No, on LinkedIn, yes, you can do that, but stop and think. This comment in isolation is now going to be placed in front of my audience. What do I want to say so they know and understand what I'm saying? For example, Michelle, you put out a post. It happens to be about this show. I see that post on LinkedIn. My comment is, Michelle, thanks for sharing this. One of the things I took away as I listened to your guest speaker was in point 2 when they said this. And then I find that incredibly valuable because I've seen it working with my clients on a variety of commercial, enterprise, customers, government. And it's been really powerful, even from the solopreneur all the way up to the enterprise. This has been fascinating, and I really appreciate you sharing this content. Okay, that comment now is going to be lifted out and placed in front of my network. Does my network even need to see what you had to say? No, I've given them all of the context. And I've explained why they should probably pay attention to you next time, because I took the time to write out a comment that reinforced what you said, but also put my own spin on it. So how long should a comment be? Well, LinkedIn says a minimum of 5 words, but my answer is long enough for you to get those 3 elements: identify the author, restate what they had to say, and share your perspective that helps your audience understand your take on what you're talking about.
Such good advice. Okay, so we heard the example of mistakes that people make with posting video. What are some other mistakes that people make on LinkedIn?
Oh, there's some big ones. And I just did a post yesterday that said the top 10 dumb things to stop doing on LinkedIn. I've had nearly 20,000 people look at and approaching 100 comments. People are just like going crazy on this. Here are some things that are going to shock your audience. So that 10% group that people are seeing, well, that's one, that's always shocking that only 10% of your audience sees it. Mm-hmm. But number 2, if you've added a link to that post, that's cut in half. Now you're only down to 5%. The 50% reach is cut. It's a 50% reduction in reach if you include a link in your post.
Interesting.
Why? Well, almost everybody does it. Why? Well, because you're driving the conversation off of LinkedIn to somebody else's platform. Okay, so there's 2 ways you can get around it. My recommendation is to make the post go live without the link. Then a few seconds later, simply edit the post, add the link at the bottom, save the post. The algorithm only checks at the time of posting. The algorithm now doesn't see it, and now you've got the link embedded into the post right there. Now, a couple of things are going to happen here. One, it's not going to load the pre-image, what we call the hero image. It's not going to load that. That's a good thing. because I've just explained that that's going to cause people to click like and move on. We don't want that image up there. Now, another way of doing it that a lot of people do is to put the link in the comments, in your first comment. Now, you can do that as well. There's a couple of downsides to that. I have 100 comments on my post yesterday. Well, if there's a link buried in there somewhere, you can go hunt for it. And number two, several people have shared my post. Comments don't follow when you share. That means the link that I was hoping that you would click on did not follow the person who shared my content. So I recommend making that edit choice, but a lot of people use that link in the first comment. Number two, this is a shocker. Not that, I mean, a lot of it's already been a shock, but this is a big one. This is a big one. Clicking the share button on somebody's content to share it with your network hides that content from 95 to 99% of your connections.
What?
I'm going to say that one more time. When I click the share button, Michelle, you've made a fantastic post. I want my audience to see it. I'm clicking the share button, share. Okay. And I make one like, hey, this is really good stuff. You should pay attention to this. LinkedIn's going to hide that from 99% of the people I'm connected to.
Now, why? Yeah.
Right? Did I start a new conversation? No. I simply copied somebody else's conversation. I did not add any value. I did not add to this. I simply duplicated content that's already there. And LinkedIn's like, look, if you want to share this, comment on it. Because my comment and your post will be pulled and placed in front of my audience. And now I'm participating in the conversation, and LinkedIn will pull in more people into the conversation. But if I just click the share button, I'm just copying and pasting. I'm just duplicating. And LinkedIn's like, that does not bring any value to our platform. Now, the question is, why is the share button there? There are ways to share, but it involves several steps. You click the share button, write your own 150 words, add 3 unique hashtags, tag the owner of the original content, make sure they come and comment on it. You comment back, all of that done within the first hour. Now LinkedIn's like, oh, you started a new conversation. We're going to go ahead and amplify this and show it to a wider audience.
So it all comes back to providing value of new content. It's all around content.
It's all around conversations. It's all around conversations. And so we get caught up with the content, but the content's got to start a conversation.
Right.
Because there's one other thing, and that is articles. Because articles are heavy content. And LinkedIn promotes them 0%. I have 118,000 followers on LinkedIn. If I write an article and put it on my LinkedIn, maybe 100 people will see it. Not 100,000. 100 people max will see that article. Because LinkedIn rolled these out early on and heavily promoted them a couple of years ago. And then they discovered that it was driving the conversations away from the feed. And so they just stopped promoting them. You can still do it, and I still do it on a regular basis, but just realize that LinkedIn will not promote that to your audience at all. Near zero.
Define articles to me, because I'm sure there are people thinking, well, I've written articles before. Why can't I just take that content and put it into a new conversation?
You can. And that's what we recommend. So an article is when you go to create content and it comes up and it's like start a post, write an article, a document, a poll, right? Those are all up there. So when you click on article, it pulls up that long form, almost like a WordPress interface where you've got the image and you've got a title and you've got all these editing tools. That is a blog, but LinkedIn refers to it as article. And that's what I mean. If you then hit publish, nobody sees it. If you want to take that content, and this is what I do, take snippets out, take content out, and now go write a post and reference and say, hey, I've covered this in detail, but here's one point I wanted to point out in an article I recently wrote. Blah, 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 blah. If you'd like to read the full article, here's the link. Post. There's no link. I hit post. I edit the post. I add the link. And now people can go back and read the full article if they wish.
Got it. Interesting.
That content is going nowhere. And I know a lot of people who spend a lot of time on those articles, really proud of what they've written, and LinkedIn is not showing it to anyone.
Interesting. Wow. All this work that we've been doing is just getting to no one. And now I understand why. Okay.
Yep.
So any other really some examples that stand out and mistakes that people make?
Uh,
Or are those the main ones?
we're
Those
going to
are your
stick
top-
with, I don't want to overwhelm the audience.
Okay.
We're going to stick with those. Those are the biggest ones. I mean, here's a couple of other, I got some minor things. You can now add a video for your introduction in your profile photo. I'm not a big fan of that because you only get one impression, and oftentimes that is not a good impression. People are using their camera or their cell phone, and sometimes they're reading a script. And I've got to tell you, I've only seen a tiny fraction of those intro videos that have caused me to want to do business or want to engage with that person. Most of the time, I'm like, oh no, that video turned me off. And so that's a tiny little thing. What else would it be? If I was going to give a piece of advice, here's a shocker on the other side.
Okay.
One, I spend a whole amount of time with my clients helping them get their LinkedIn profiles fixed so that it doesn't look like they're looking for a job, but instead they actually can bring value to their audience. But here's a way to drive attention to your profile where you can then start to capture people. And that is, stop worrying about posting content. It's not about content. And this comes back to a little bit what you said. I challenge your audience, and we call it the 2x5 challenge, or the 5x2, however you want to say that. And that is, for the next 5 days, we'll call it 5 business days. For the next 5 business days, I challenge your audience to do one thing and one thing only. Leave 2 comments a day for 5 days. And those comments should be on people. Don't just make those comments on friends, because LinkedIn is then going to think that that's all that you want to see and fill your feed with just content from your friends. Go find industry people around topics that you find interesting or you want to be known for, and leave comments on those posts. So outside of your first degree connections, 2 comments a day, 5 days in a row. The number of profile views that you get on your LinkedIn profile will jump by 100 to 300% in a single week, simply because you started participating in other people's conversations with insightful comments. And that will drive a massive amount of people to your profile. I had one client who reached out and sent me back a screenshot of his profile views. And it was hovering near the bottom. And then he took our challenge, and he saw a 4,800% increase in a single week. He had more people look at his profile in that last week than had in the previous 90 days, simply because he stopped trying to share and post new content and instead simply went and started participating with comments on other people's conversations.
Okay, that's great advice, but I have a question for that. So when you do that, you're going to get all sorts of people flooding in saying they want to connect with you. What do you do with those?
Couple of things. One, if your audience goes and looks at my LinkedIn profile, they will notice, some people don't, I have a dot in front of my name. It looks just like a bullet. It is just a bullet. Why is it there? Well, because, and this has happened multiple times already today, the auto bots who are sending connection requests or in-mail messages or even email to my inbox are scraping and grabbing that dot. I have received 2 messages today that start off with "Dear Dot." I got one at one point that said, "Dear Dot, let's do the human thing and connect." But LinkedIn's making it a lot harder for us to connect. I'm like, delete. Those are bots trying to automatically connect with you or send you in-mail messages. So I just simply I put that little dot in front of my name. Most of my team are millennials, so they all use emojis. I tried using emoji. I used that pile of chocolate ice cream that's got the funny eyes and the big smile. And then my team pointed out to me that wasn't chocolate ice cream. So
I knew that too, Richard.
So I use the dot, and that's one way to capture and act as a bit of a gatekeeper from all of those. Also, when somebody sends you an in-mail message, and you get those in your LinkedIn inbox, people, I see the debates all the time. Should you be nice? Should you tell them no? Should you respond? I'm like, what are you doing? Those people had to pay for the right to send you that in-mail message. They had to buy a certain number of credits. And when they send that in-mail message to you, they're using one of their credits. If you respond to them saying, "Stop sending me in-mail messages," they get their credit back and they get to do it to somebody else. If somebody sends you an email and it's a cold call pitch, I've gotten long past being rude. I simply delete and block, or block, delete, however way you want to do that. I don't respond. I don't engage, delete and block, because I don't know you and you just used me as a platform to freely spam me. And that's what I do with spam. So that's what I'm doing with you. Now, but there's a second question here. What do you do with these people? How do you know that you should connect with them or not? Now, that's a decision. I connect to about 60 to 70% of the people who reach out to me to connect. Of the 118,000 followers I have, less than 10% of those are connections. I don't connect with a lot of people. Well, relatively speaking, compared to the number of followers. And it's because if I connect with you, LinkedIn's going to try putting your content in my feed. Do I want that? Not necessarily. So I try to be careful. So I would suggest to your audience for them to think about, am I interested in receiving this person's content? Because here's what happens. When they send you a connection request, it automatically turns on the follow feature. So even if you reject their connection request or ignore it, they're still following you. They'll still see your content. So ask yourself, do I want to see their content? And that helps you determine if you should accept or not. And I'll give one more piece of advice, Michelle. If you're kind of interested, but you want to make sure you're not being scammed by somebody, here's one thing. Everything on LinkedIn's profile can be lied about, except for one thing. So people could say they work at Microsoft and they don't even have a job and they've never graduated and they have no experience whatsoever. They could say they went to Harvard and work at Microsoft. Neither Harvard nor Microsoft are going to step in and change that, nor is LinkedIn. But there is one thing that they can't lie about, and that is when the timing of when they receive recommendations. And those are those long form recommendations that are at the bottom of somebody's LinkedIn profile. If I'm kind of interested, but I'm okay, are you legit? I go down to recommendations and I don't really care what they said. I care when they said it. If all of those recommendations came in 2022, which is the time of this recording, I'm probably not going to accept that connection request. But if they came in 2019, 2017, and 2015, showing me that over the last 7 years, you have been active on this platform and received these recommendations, okay, you're legit, because you can't fake that. And that's the one thing I use as the criteria when I'm finally having to decide for real. That's the one criteria that can't be faked.
Okay, that's good advice. That's because I have not known what to do there. So that's great advice. Okay, so let's talk about, do other social medias pick up the algorithms of LinkedIn?
No. And it has to do with because where they get their money from. They get their money from advertising. So their goal is to distract you, entertain you, and enrage you so that you keep coming back and you stay there. And we've all been there, right? Yeah. All of a sudden you look, my wife will say, what are you yelling about? And it's because I look up and 45 minutes have gone by and I've been sitting there watching stupid videos at 10 seconds each. And suddenly all my time's gone. That's their business model. We are the product. They make their money off of somebody who pays for access to us. Now, LinkedIn's revenue is 20% advertising, 80%. We are the customer. We are paying for the right or the ability to access this platform. And we want to make sure, LinkedIn wants to make sure that we have an experience that keeps us coming back paying. I often ask in my audiences, how many of you would be willing to pay for your social media platform? Not talking about LinkedIn. You know how many hands go up? 0. Nobody is willing to pay. I mean, YouTube struggles with it, right? Hey, we'll deliver videos up no charge. Just pay us. Nah, I think I'll just stick with the interruptions with the videos. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they're all out there. The analogy I use is a terrible analogy, but the analogy I use is they're all holding us underwater like a struggling puppy until we stop struggling. And it is a terrible analogy, but it's so true. They don't care about us. They only care if we are stuck there so that they can make money off of their advertising dollars. LinkedIn does not want that to happen. And so they are very aggressive about what kind of content goes on their platform and how it responds and interacts, which is why if I put up a cat video on LinkedIn, almost nobody's going to see it because LinkedIn is going to determine, no, that's not really appropriate for our platform, even though it's not offensive. Unless, of course, I'm in the business of, I'm a vet, I'm a cat vet, then I want people to talk about it. But in general, it's going to be kept to an audience and a topic that's important to all of us from a business standpoint. And that's what sets LinkedIn apart. The other ones, they don't care. Post Twitter. Do you think Twitter has a quota on how much content we can put out? Oh, that was something else I forgot to tell your audience. You can only put out one post about every 4 hours, 4 to 8 hours. If you put out posts more often than that, LinkedIn hides the second, third, fourth post because it's testing that first post. That was the other shocker. So once a day max of content on LinkedIn. Twitter, oh no, once a minute. More is better.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're doing it once a day, how quick should the comments come back? Does that matter?
Yeah, it's an hour. It's that first hour.
Okay. So they can't do it too soon. They can't respond like within the first 10 minutes and it be an issue, or the first 5 minutes and be an issue.
No, it's an hour. It's an hour or two. The research is kind of vague, but I use an hour just so it's easy for people to remember. Okay, 60 minutes, an hour. You can fudge for 2 hours, but if I got 100 comments spread over a day and a half, no, that didn't drive an urgency. And LinkedIn will be like, man, you got some comments, but it was spread over time because that's one of the measurements they use, velocity. How quickly did people interact with your content? Not how quickly from when they saw it to when they commented, but how quickly from when you posted till now you started generating a conversation. That's called velocity, and that's another one of the things they measure. And so if the velocity is 72 hours, they don't care. If it's 45 minutes, we need to show this to a much broader audience because obviously this thing's hot right now.
Right. So if you've timed it, then you've got your 10 people that are going to be commenting and they comment like right away. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
No.
Okay. That's so good to know. All right. I love your challenge for the next 5 business days. Everybody listening should go and post 2 comments that are substantial comments, right?
On other people's content I would say beyond your immediate network.
Right. That are more your industry, right?
More industry focused. Yeah.
Right. I love that challenge. And then we're going to be doing exactly what you said with our program that we're going to be airing with you next week. So I'm going to put it to the test. We're going to see how it does. I'm very excited to start doing this.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens.
That's right. Richard, what a great wealth of information. Oh my gosh, it just doesn't stop. You're just like the ever-flowing fountain of content about LinkedIn information for us. So if people want to learn more about you and what you do, where should they go?
They can go to my web. They go to LinkedIn. That's one way they can find me. And they can follow me or follow my hashtag on LinkedIn, which is either Richard Bliss or Digital First Leadership, which is kind of what my company is used for. My website is blisspointconsult.com.
Okay.
And that's where they can go and find out all kinds of information about, we have some LinkedIn training courses that we offer. We have, that's where I do public speaking. One of the things I do for my team is we have a team of individuals. There's 10 of us here at the organization, and I pay my employees to write books. They get to pick the topic. They get to write about anything they want, but I pay them as they write it. I pay the editors, our editing team, to edit it. We publish it under Bliss Point Press, so they can go and find the books that my team are publishing. One of our employees, Leah, has a book coming out next week, is launching. But we do that. So all of that can be found at blisspointconsult.com.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I can't imagine anyone listening today isn't going to be checking you out. So, and contacting you. I mean, if you're smart, you would be contacting Richard. So, Richard, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Here's a piece of advice. If they're going to reach out to me, mention the show so that I know why you're reaching out to me. Because if it's just a random, I'm probably not going to know why. And so I'm going to say, mention Michelle, mention Glow, right? That's how you find a way to connect.
We love that. So thank you so much for spending this time with us. It was so valuable, and I look forward to meeting up with you down the road. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. It's been my pleasure.
Yep. Bye-bye. And for all of you that are still tuned in, wow, what a great segment, right? Who would not be thrilled to be listening and hearing that information and applying that to their business today? So thanks for joining us, and be sure to check us out next week with our program. Remember, every Thursday, 12 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for joining. Stay